morning with the sunrise in my eyes. My ride sweeter beneath the one I love. I don't know how, don't know why. I've been toasting all my life. Oh, it's sweeter. I've been toasting all my life.
Welcome to Phillip Island, Victoria in Australia. What a setting we have for this great sporting contest, the Little Penguin Sea to Dune race. Nervous moments always as they gather on the beach, the tension mounting, and away they go. There's the defending champion, wearing his familiar navy blue and white, great waddling style. Another pre-race favourite though, losing touch with the pack. Maybe that's why. A few too many fish in the day's feeding. There's a familiar face, Skip McIntyre, 8 times a champion back in the 90s, a very successful coach now, keeping a keen eye on proceedings. This the leading group, 1 or 2 still able to put on a show for the camera, others just ploughing straight over it. Some resorting to shortcuts. Sad that cheating has crept into this beautiful sport. The judges will have a look at that. But up at the front, the pace is relentless, closing in on those sand dunes that will offer a bed for the night. The fatigue starting to tell. Who's got the finishing kick up on the outside? What a turn of pace from that one, whichever one it is. No answer from the rest, and he takes victory. What a win. There we are, into the Borough, building an extension with his winnings, and back tomorrow to try and defend his title here on Phillip Island.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another night of live Penguin TV. My name's Megan, and I'm going to be your host tonight as we watch our little penguins, the world's smallest species of penguin, crossing the beach back to their burrows here on Phillip Island in Victoria, Australia. And tonight I'm joined by Heather. Heather, do you want to come in, say hello, and tell us what you'll be doing tonight?
Good evening, everyone. Tonight I will be monitoring the YouTube and Facebook questions, and maybe throwing Megan a couple of curly questions.
Ooh, sounds good, Heather. Do your worst. So put all of your questions and comments in the comments on Facebook and YouTube. And Heather will be throwing some of those ones to me throughout the night to answer live on our Penguin live stream. She will be paying special attention to the questions on YouTube because we will be going back through the questions on Facebook, and we'll have a ranger answering all of your questions on Facebook. So don't worry if we don't get back to you tonight. It's a little bit harder to do that on YouTube, so we will be trying to focus on the YouTube questions tonight, but answering from both. So send through your best, your most difficult questions. And also, if you're a seasoned Wattle watcher and you watch every night and you feel like there's something that we haven't really talked about yet, or something you're really itching to know, let us know in the comments, because we like to try and keep it interesting, keep it different, and talk about different things where we can. So if there's something you really, really want to know, let us know, and we'll do our best to tell you all about it, if we know the answers, that is. So we are here on the beautiful Phillip Island. We've had a lovely day here. It's been lovely and warm, and I'm sure the penguins are itching to get home. So we are looking out over Summerland's beach here on the south coast of Phillip Island, and we are on Millau. So Millau is the traditional name for Phillip Island. And Phillip Island is the traditional land of the Boroughs. So the Boroughs have been coming here for thousands of years and looking after and caring for this beautiful country that we're looking out onto tonight. And I would like to acknowledge the Boroughs and their elders, past, present, and emerging, as the traditional custodians of this land, and thank them for looking after and caring for this land for so many years and helping us to continue to do that into the future. And I would also like to say Happy NAIDOC Week. So it's a very special week for our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander visitors all around Australia. So I would like to especially mention that they've been here for over 65,000 years, looking after and caring for this land. And if you would like to know more about that, I encourage you to do your research, learn about the traditional custodians where you're from. If you know who they are, put that in the comments. Let us know what country you are watching from. It's very important that we acknowledge that special connection, and that the land we're on always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So it's very important that we know where we are and acknowledge those traditional custodians and all the work they've done to live off this land sustainably, to have it here looking as beautiful as it is for us to view it here tonight at the Penguin Parade. And they would have been the first people probably who saw penguins ever coming here to Phillip Island. They've seen this land through many, many changes, rising sea levels, lower sea levels. Back many years ago, you could walk right across to Phillip Island. It didn't used to always be an island. So there's been many changes throughout the years that they've weathered, and hopefully we can help this land endure for many, many more years to come. Now, we are looking out across the main section of our beach, and I'm going to scroll a little bit across the beach and have a bit of a look for some penguins, because we did have some early penguins frolicking along at the water's edge a little bit early tonight. So we'll have a little bit of a look across and see if they are still here. But it's looking quite bright out, so I wouldn't be surprised if they've gone back on it. There they are, still hanging around. They're very keen to get home tonight, and you might have seen as I was scrolling across that the tide is quite high. So our penguins might be feeling a little bit more confident tonight. Last night our penguins didn't come in till 8:29. So these guys might keep us waiting. They might hang around there for a little while before they do cross. Or they might build up the courage to run straight across. And I'll zoom out a bit, and we'll try and see how many penguins are here getting ready to come out of the water, because there's not going to be much time to count them as they cross the beach. And we do have Ranger Beck, who will be counting the penguins tonight. So I'm just going to turn my volume up a little bit so you guys can hear me. Hope that's a bit better. So Beck will be counting the penguins tonight. So she's up in the skybox that we were looking at earlier, that white building, with her binoculars, looking at these little penguins, waiting for them to cross the beach so that she can count them as they cross. So she has a very difficult job. If you want to try your hand at penguin counting, have a go at counting these guys. She will wait till they cross the beach, because right now some are going into the water and coming back, and we don't know which way they're going to go. So she'll count them as they cross, but she's not going to have much opportunity to do that tonight. She's going to have to count nice and quick. And we did have, I think we had Beck counting the penguins last night as well, did we, Heather?
Yes, we had
We
Beck
did.
and Sally. Yes.
Beck and Sally last night and tonight. So Heather's having a bit of deja vu. And last night, how many penguins do we have, Heather? I know all our Wattle watchers are dying to know.
Sure. Last night was 1,178 penguins at 8:29.
Ooh, 1,178 penguins. Fantastic. If any of you watched last night, see if you guessed close to that. It seems like we've been having around about 1,000 penguins the last few nights, which is great to see. And it looks like we have a nice, good group who are getting ready to cross the beach. So get your counting hats on. Put on your glasses, get your binoculars if you need them. You might be watching these penguins on a much bigger screen than me, so good luck trying to count these little guys. And there's even more waiting behind them in the water. And what these penguins are doing is they're looking around, making sure it is safe to cross the beach, because what they're doing right now, coming out of the water, crossing the beach, heading back to their burrows, it is the most scary part of our penguins' night, because that's when they're the most vulnerable to predators. So these penguins have been out at sea all day. They might have been out there for a few days or a few weeks, looking for food, filling up their bellies. They might be bringing back that food to feed their chicks. And when they decide they want to come onto land, they start gathering offshore in groups. So they've been doing that for the last couple of hours, and we call these groups rafts. So I might actually zoom out so we can see if there are any more rafts on their way, because it's a little bit flat just behind our penguins here. So we might be able to see if a big group joins them. So you're looking for a black line or a disturbance on the surface of the water, and that's why we call them a raft in the water. And those rafts, they sit out on the surface looking up at the horizon, up where our camera is, waiting for it to get dark, because that's when the penguins' natural predators here on land, so big predatory birds, things like sea eagles, Pacific gulls, swamp harriers, it's too dark for them to hunt, so they go to roost for the night, and that's when it's safest for our little penguins to cross the beach. But they are still quite nervous, so you can see these guys. I'll zoom back in on them. They're having a bit of a look around and making sure the coast is clear before they cross. And they're almost halfway already, so we might have even had a start to our penguin count. No, not
Very,
yet.
very close, Megan,
very
but no
close.
start yet.
Not just yet. They're looking a little bit unsure. Oh, it looks like they're making a move. Beck better start counting. And that's a good little group to start, because we need at least 5 penguins before we officially start our penguin count for the night. And I can confidently say that that's more than 5 penguins if they all make it across, which it looks like they're going to.
So we have officially started.
Fantastic. Thank you, Heather. That's an official start to our penguin count for those playing at home. So we'll now count these penguins for 50 minutes. So just under an hour, we'll count these little guys as they cross the beach. So Beck has a long 50 minutes ahead trying to count these penguins with such little beach to count them across. So good luck, Beck. Send Beck all your love in the comments. I'm sure she'll appreciate it as she's trying to furiously count these little penguins. But that's a nice, good little group to start. She'll probably have over another 1,000 to count after these penguins. So let us know in the comments how many you think was in that group. I think that might have been one that wasn't too difficult to count. But you'll notice they're a lot harder to see now they're up in the rocks. So they're feeling a lot safer now. Now they're up on land, they should be safe from those predators. So they're probably going to stop and have a little bit of a rest and preen their feathers. Or they might be in a bit of a hurry. It doesn't look like they're gonna stop and have a break, because some of these guys will have a long way to walk. They might have to walk up to 2 kilometers to get home. But it is the breeding season, so a lot of our penguins do have chicks at home that they're coming back to feed. So it looks like they're on a mission. And you'll notice that they are walking up our creek bed, which was full of water this time last week, but it's all dried up. We've had some nice warm weather. And now instead of being a creek, it is a penguin pathway. So our penguins do love to swim up the creek when it's a creek, but when it's just a dried up creek bed, they'll happily just waddle along up the creek bed back to their burrows. Good work, little guys. Now these guys, if you haven't watched before, you might be thinking, oh, those penguins look so small, and it's not just because we're zoomed out, they are called little penguins. That is the name of their species, and they are the smallest species of penguin in the world. So these little guys are only about 1 foot or 33 centimeters tall, and they only weigh about 1 kilo. Maybe a bit more if they've had a good feed. So these are our little penguins, and they also are the only species of penguin with blue and white feathers. All those bigger species of penguin you might think of, the emperor penguins, king penguins, they all have black and white feathers. So our little penguins are the only ones with those blue and white feathers. They do actually get called blue penguins or little blue penguins in New Zealand, and they are found only in New Zealand and Australia, and we're lucky enough to have the largest colony of little penguins here on Phillip Island. And that colony extends it's not just here at the Penguin Parade, it goes for about another 3 kilometres up the peninsula. So this is only about 10% of our penguin colony that you can see here at the Penguin Parade. So we do look after about 32,000 little penguins on the Summerland Peninsula. And that's managed by Phillip Island Nature Parks. And that's who we are, and we actually look after about 20% of Phillip Island. So as well as looking after our penguin colony, we manage many of our the whole southern side of the island. So I might actually zoom out, keep an eye out for some more penguins, and you can see the southern coastline off in the distance there. You can see the beautiful Pyramid Rock and Cape Woolamai out in the distance, Summerland's beach. We also have our koala reserve. Oh, I see some more penguins. Where we're currently caring for some koalas who were affected by the recent bushfires, and we're hoping to be able to release them very soon. We also have Churchill Island Heritage Farm. Sorry, I'm just going to go over to the Penguin Highway because we have a penguin on there. And also our Nobby Centre and our seal rocks, so a colony of about 20,000 Australian fur seals as well. So there's many beautiful places that we look after for our animals, for our wildlife, and so that you guys can come visit and enjoy these beautiful places. So if you do want to help us out with the work that we do here at Phillip Island Nature Parks, you can come and visit us. So we're very excited to be able to welcome back the whole of Victoria now, and hopefully the rest of Australia, and then sometime soon, hopefully the rest of the world as we go. So we do want to see you all back here as soon as possible. There we go. And if you can't come see us just yet, you can help us out by donating to the Penguin Foundation. So you can adopt a penguin, you can become a Penguin Pal, and all that money that you donate or money you spend on visiting us or buying souvenirs, it all goes back into our conservation research and education. So that's helping to look after our beautiful wildlife and wild places here on Phillip Island, so we can continue enjoying them for many, many more years to come. And these little guys look like they're getting ready to come out. They're hiding behind the bush there. I might zoom out a little bit and we'll keep an eye out for some more penguins. And that penguin we saw walking down the highway, if you haven't seen that before, that's quite exciting. That penguin walking the wrong way, she isn't lost. That's what we call a shell gritter. So that is a female penguin who's getting ready to lay eggs. So she would have been up in her burrow all day, probably for a few days. And she's coming down at night to eat little pieces of shell grit off the pathway and off the beach to get a bit of extra calcium to help build the shells of her eggs, make them nice and strong. So that's what she's doing. We'll probably see her coming down onto the beach a little bit later, trying to battle through the crowds of penguins walking the other way to fulfill that pregnancy craving, getting that little extra bit of calcium to help make her eggs nice and strong. So keep an eye out for more shell gritters up on that highway camera up on the top right, and I'll try and go over to it when I see something interesting. But we've had a lot of shell gritters recently, which is very exciting. And our penguins seem to be having a really good breeding season. So if you watch regularly, you might have seen that we had some chicks not too long ago. They were doing really well. They were really nice and fat and healthy, getting fed lots of food. And a lot of them have actually fledged. So a lot of them have headed out to the big blue, headed out to the ocean to fend for themselves. And a lot of our penguins are actually getting ready to have some more eggs. So some of them might be a little bit behind, they might be starting a bit late, they might just be having their first clutch of eggs. But some of them are actually moving on to having their second clutch, which is very exciting. So they will lay 2 eggs at a time, our little penguins. So they'll usually raise those 2 chicks, And then, because our breeding season started so early, these penguins have time to try and raise 2 more chicks, which is really fantastic. So those chicks will probably be hatching in about a month. So about 35 days it takes for those eggs to hatch. And then they'll be with us for about another 8 to 10 weeks. So probably around February, if my math is right, we'll have a lot more chicks getting ready to head out if the second clutches go as well as the first clutches. And it's a very good sign that there's lots and lots of food out there for our little penguins. Well, it looks like we have some more penguins over here getting ready to cross. So these guys might join together. They might try and make one big waddle. So we call them a raft in the water. When they do come up onto land, we do like to call them a waddle of penguins. So these guys might join together for that safety in numbers. So they're safer crossing at night, and they're even safer when they're in a nice big group. It's harder to pick out an individual penguin if there are any predators still hanging about, but it's looking quite dark now, so our penguins should be pretty safe. Don't worry, these cameras make things look a little bit lighter than they are, so if you're thinking that it still looks very light and the penguins might be in a bit of danger, it's actually not that light. Our cameras are a little bit deceiving, but it makes it a lot easier for us to see our little penguins. And we do try and limit our impact on them and make it, so I'm just going to check if there's any more. Try and make it as safe as possible for our little penguins crossing the beach. So all the lighting that we do actually have here has a red filter on it because our little penguins spend most of the time in the water where red light's filtered out. Oh, there's a couple penguins there. They see mostly in the blue spectrum of light, so they don't see red light too well, so all of our lights here actually have a red filter to try and minimize our impact on our little penguins and make this as natural as possible for them, because they are wild animals and we want them to stay as wild as possible here on Phillip Island. Now, while we're patiently waiting for these little penguins to cross, we might grab a question from Heather. I'm sure you've all been sending through your wonderful questions. There's probably many things you're dying to know. So what have you got for me, Heather?
So Peter would like to know, does the heat have an impact on the penguins in their burrows during the day? Because here on Phillip Island today, the top temperature was 29 and it's currently 21 degrees. So it's quite warm tonight. So how does that impact on our penguins?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Thank you for that one, Peter. It is nice and warm here. I'm sitting here in my t-shirt and shorts and had a nice swim at the beach earlier today. So it's definitely a nice warm day, 29 degrees. It even felt warmer than that. And does that affect our penguins on land? So it doesn't bother them in the ocean, but when they do come on land, they are quite prone to heat stress. So they have all those beautiful insulating feathers that keep them nice and dry and warm and waterproof when they're out at sea, because they can be out there for up to a month in winter and it's freezing cold in that water. Trust me, it doesn't really warm up that much in summer either. So these little guys are really good at staying warm when they're out at sea, but they are the smallest species of penguin for a reason, because they live somewhere warm. So we have the big emperor penguins that live in Antarctica are the biggest because they live in one of the coldest places. So they have to be big to keep in their body heat and stay nice and warm when they're on land. But our little penguins are so small because it gets warmer here. So being smaller, it does mean that they have more surface area on their body to help them keep cool. When they get warm, they'll fan out their flippers to help lose some heat. They'll open their mouths and pant a little bit to try and cool down. But if it does get over about 30 degrees, it can have an impact on our penguins here on land, and they can get a little bit stressed from the heat. So today they were probably fine. They were probably not too warm up here in their burrows, but if it got a few degrees warmer, our penguins might have started to get a little bit heat stressed. So they can get swollen little red feet, and they can sometimes even faint from the heat. So if we do see any penguins who are struggling to breathe, or they're not doing so well, we do take them to our wildlife clinic if we can, give them some fluids, help cool them down. Or what we might do is just pop them in the ocean or dunk their feet in some water, and that cools them down really quickly. But that's only really a big issue if we have a few hot days in a row. So they can cope pretty well with one day where it might go over 30 degrees, but if we have 2, 3, 4 days in a row where it gets over 30 degrees, the penguins can struggle quite a bit. And that's particularly our penguins who live in some of our wooden boxes. So you might have seen the beautiful little wooden nesting boxes that we build for our penguins. And we'll scroll over to them when these guys make a move over that way, because I'm sure you'll want to keep watching what they're doing. And those wooden boxes, they're quite different to a natural burrow. A natural burrow will go right into the dirt, covered in plants, and it stays nice and cool in there compared to in a wooden box that's exposed to the sun. So we do try to cover our boxes with dirt and vegetation and branches to try and help keep our penguins a little bit cooler, because we are starting to have more of those extreme temperatures and heat waves that have more of an impact on those penguins. So we're starting to see more of that as our climate changes and we get a little bit warmer. So we are actually working on some new box designs at the moment. So some boxes with some different lids and ventilation to try and help these penguins stay cooler. So taking it a step further from just plonking some vegetation on the burrows, we're trying to make sure our penguins stay nice and cool and we can help them combat that increasing temperatures into the future. And here they go, finally crossing the beach. And these guys will all be nice and cool, just coming out of the ocean. Probably have a nice little sea breeze down there, cooling them down. So that's a very great question. Thank you for that one, Peter. Oh, and there's another group of penguins. I didn't see these ones. Oh, they snuck right past me while I was too busy talking. Here they come streaming over the rocks. It's a nice big group of penguins, and you can even see right on the rocks here all this white stuff, and that's where the penguins like to stop and have a rest. Usually these guys look like they're in a bit of a hurry, but I'm sure as more and more penguins start coming in, they'll like to stop and have a little bit of a rest on the rocks. But maybe because the tide is quite high tonight, they haven't walked that far. They've got a bit more energy in them, and they're going to keep powering along. Oh, there we go. There's a few that have stopped to have a little bit of a rest. I think Stephen and Sky, they like to call that the salon. So the penguins are stopping, having a little bit of a preen, making sure their their feathers are nice and sleek and looking nice, because if they have raised their chicks and the chicks have fledged, they've kicked them out of home, they might be going back home to have a special night with their missus or their husband or their wife, their partner. So they might be trying to impress somebody tonight.
So Megan, Beck just informed me that group that came ashore had about 108 penguins in it.
Wow.
For everyone that was counting.
Thanks, Heather. 108 penguins in that group. Wow, I definitely did not count them. I only caught them as they'd gone across. So that's a really big group of penguins, 108, and they've all kind of run off already. They're in a hurry tonight. So let us know if you counted 108. I would be very impressed if you had. It's definitely not an easy job counting these little penguins as they cross the beach. And I'm going to switch over to the Penguin Highway because we have a big group coming past there. Oh, and they look nice and chunky. So do keep an eye out for some penguin romance, as a lot of our penguins are starting to have those second clutches now the kids have left the burrow, and we might see more of those shell gritters as well. Actually, I think I see one now on the highway camera going the wrong way, going against the flow of traffic. Oh, she even had a go at that penguin going past. Well, she's a little bit grumpy with all her hormones, I'm sure, and her pregnancy cravings. She's like, oh, I just want to get down to the beach, get my shells, and go relax at home. It's too hot. I'm over this. I've been at home all day, and she just wants to get down there. And all these penguins keep pushing her as she's trying to get past. But she'll keep going. She's just patiently waiting for them to go past now. Ooh, and they're even having a little bit of a stop in front of the highway camera there. Oh, and there they go. That penguin was told, no, we're still moving. Keep going. Not time for a rest just yet. We're on a mission. There they go. We might go back over to the main camera. We'll see if there's any more penguins coming in. There's a little group coming. We might see where these guys are going. So I did say I wanted to show you guys some penguin boxes. So there we go. You can see some of our wooden boxes just here. And that's where some of these little guys will be going. Some of them do walk up this steep hill here. They do go up and they cross the road to get back to their burrows. And some of them have the prime real estate here nice and close to the beach, so they don't go too far. But these penguins have been doing really well this breeding season. Oh, it looks like there's another shell gritter here. And as all those chicks are starting to fledge, we're trying to get a bit more information to see what our penguins are doing. We try and see what they're doing during each stage of breeding. So right now, most of our penguins are in what we call postguard. So that's when the chicks are getting older and they're old enough that they're left home alone by mum and dad. So that's what we've been seeing lately, those older chicks coming out of the burrows. And who's that up there? I'll just check if there are any chicks around, because there are still some hanging around. Who's home at these burrows? It's a little bit hard to see. This grass is quite long. And when these chicks are postguard, mum and dad only come in at night to feed them, and then they go straight back out again that night, or in the morning they'll go out just before sunrise. Their job is done. They have to go keep finding food for these hungry chicks, as the chicks are probably bigger than them at this stage, or getting there. And takes, I think our penguin expert, Dr. Andre, said it takes about 14 kilograms of fish to raise one chick to fledging. So these parents, if they still have chicks, they've been very, very busy out there finding food. And one of the most important things we want to know is what food these parents are bringing back to their chicks. So that's something that we've been doing right now. This very week, we've been trying to figure out what these penguin parents have been eating. So Jordan might have told you a little bit about this last night, but what we've been doing, what I was actually doing this morning, I came out here to the parade to collect some penguin poo, which is very, very glamorous. You get to put a little piece of cardboard in the entrance of the penguin burrow. You leave it a day and you come back and hope that there's some penguin poo on that piece of cardboard. And we scoop up the best bits, put it in a little vial, and we can actually analyse that. And that tells us from the DNA in the poo what the penguins have been eating over the last 24 hours. So that's really great to find out what they've been eating. I said it's glamorous. It's not really. We're doing some natural burrows today, not just the wooden boxes. I was putting my arms in, getting the cardboard in, and I had penguin poo up to about here, up to about my elbow. So it's not a pretty job, but it's really important to know what these penguins are eating in the short term and also in the long term during each stage of breeding. So something else we've been doing is actually collecting blood samples from these penguins. So just taking a little bit of blood so we can analyse that. And we have a lovely honours student, Leanne, at the moment, who's taking those samples to the lab and trying to work out what the penguins are eating. And that tells us what they've been eating over about a month. So that gives us lots of great information about what they're eating, and it tells us what their trophic level is, which pretty much means where they are, where in the food chain they're foraging. So if they're eating the really little small jellyfish and plankton, or if they're eating some of those bigger fish higher up the food chain. Because our penguins here, they are the top predators when they're out at sea. They don't really have to worry about anything eating them. They are the ones doing all the eating, looking for that food while they're out at sea. And it looks like we have some more penguins coming up as well. And we might grab another question from Heather. I'm sure she has lots of excellent questions for us.
I have got a great question, Megan.
Yes.
What part of the penguin do you take the blood samples from?
Ooh, that's a great question. Where do we take the blood samples from on the penguins? So, as I'm sure you all know, penguins are covered in feathers. So it's a little bit hard to try and see where their veins are on their body. On their abdomen and on their flippers. So what we actually do is we take a blood sample from their foot. So you just hold their foot and you find the little vein, just a little prick, collect a little bit of blood as it comes out, and it stops pretty quickly, and we pop them back in their burrow. So it's really quite quick, quite painless. Just take a little bit of blood from their foot and then send them along their way. And as I was saying, that the in postguard, the parents only come in at night. So that means that to collect the blood from our penguin parents, we actually had to go venture out into the colony at night time. And we did that 2 nights ago, Sunday night. It was a very late night up in the penguin colony, collecting that blood from the penguins, trying not to disturb them too much as we tried to get those little blood samples. And something we had to do was we had to very carefully drive up the road up along the peninsula. So all those roads into the penguin colony are actually closed off after sunset for very good reason. Because Jordan and myself were on the road shooing the penguins to the sides as we were slowly driving along. Oh, we'll go to the Penguin Highway. This is kind of what it was like along the road. Penguins waddling every which way. So those roads are closed to protect our wildlife, and we it's probably the only time in the year really that we have to go up there at night. So very careful because it is those roads are all for the wildlife at night time. And something we've actually noticed, there's a few more shellgrid. There's a little mothers group going down the highway. Oh, beautiful. Something we've noticed here on Phillip Island is that while we've been in lockdown here in Melbourne, our roads have been very quiet. Now wildlife has kind of started to take over. So I know just driving to work tonight, 2 wallabies hopped right across the road in front of me. So as we do start to open up, and especially for those of you in Melbourne, as you start to venture out and come to some of these wild places, it's fantastic to have your back, but be extra careful on our roads because wildlife has kind of gotten used to having it all to itself. So we're very lucky we can come out and view them, but be very careful because they will quite happily hop across the road, and especially here at the Penguin Parade, as those young penguin chicks start to fledge, they start to get up to a lot of mischief. And that's when we often find penguins on the road because they don't know where they're going. Mum and Dad have stopped feeding them. They're trying to figure out where to go, what to do, how to fend for themselves. So those little penguin chicks, they do wander around. They get on the road. They get into the car parks. They get up to a lot of mischief. We find them in all kinds of places. One of our penguin researchers, Paula, was telling me today that she found a penguin in our building. Now there is a special spot in our Penguin Parade building here where we have some penguin boxes built into the side of the building. So the penguins can come and live in them, and we have a little piece of glass so we can look inside and see the penguins in their burrows, which is really cool. And the only way they can access those burrows is from their little entrance out the front. But one penguin managed to get through that little entrance, and somehow he got on top of the burrow and he got stuck between the sheet of glass on top of the burrow and the sheet of glass that we look through. And he got himself into this big predicament, and Paula had to go in there and get him out and make sure there was no way that he was ever going to get in there again. And we have penguins doing all sorts of things like that, getting themselves into drain pipes, getting into buildings. There actually used to be a housing estate up here on the peninsula, and one night someone accidentally locked a penguin in their laundry and it chewed the whole bottom of their door trying to escape. So penguins, they get themselves into all types of predicaments. So if you do come here, and if you're hopefully when you're able to come here and view our beautiful penguins, I'll keep an eye out for them in the weirdest of places. They do get up to mischief, especially those young penguin chicks when they're learning what to do. They're very curious, and they like to get around. And we have plenty more penguins coming along the highway, and I'll see if there is any more crossing the beach while we're watching those little guys. It's getting a bit darker, a bit harder to see them. So most of our penguins do come in that first 20 minutes to half an hour, and we have been watching the penguins for about 15 minutes now, so we do only have about 5 minutes left of watching these beautiful little guys crossing the beach. So while we're having a look for some more, I might grab another, switch back to the main camera like that. I'm getting too used to be able to see both of them at the same time now. And we might grab another question from Heather. I'm sure they've all been flowing through, and there's another shell gritter going down to the beach on the main screen.
So Megan, Sophie would like to know how we tell the difference between a male and female penguin.
Ooh, that's a good question. We haven't talked about that one for a while. What is the difference between a male and a female penguin? So I like to say there's 3 ways to tell the difference. So we've seen the shell gritters. We know if a penguin is shell gritting, that penguin is a female. And if you want to know just by looking at a penguin, you've got to look at the size of their beak. I might see if I can zoom in a little bit on some of these penguins. It'll be a little bit hard to see because it's quite hard to tell, but the males have a deeper beak than the females. So the beak will be deeper, and it'll have more of a hook on the end if a penguin's a male, and it will be thinner and straighter if it's a female. So when we want to try and check whether a penguin's male or female, we actually get a set of calipers and we measure their beak, and if it's bigger than 13.3 millimeters, it's a male. If it's smaller, it's a female. But that's not even 100% accurate. So sometimes we do measure a beak and we say, oh yeah, that penguin's a female. And then 1 or 2 years later, oh, that penguin's somehow a male, and the penguin hasn't changed genders. It was just a young male, because their beaks aren't fully grown until they're a few years old. Oh, and I'm going to go to the Penguin Highway because there's a mother's group going past, a nice little group of shell gritters going down to the beach, waddling down together, which I think is just gorgeous. So there we go. We know all those penguins are females. And I did say there was a third way, and that is if you see what I like to call some special penguin cuddles. And if you see that, you can confidently say that the penguin on top is a male. So that's how you tell the difference between a male and a female. Ooh, and what's that penguin doing? Flapping his wings around. You might even have a bit of an inkling what's going on if you see a little bit of courtship, because the male penguins, they do like to sing a bit of a song, do a bit of a dance to try and impress the females. And it looks like this penguin on the highway here might be trying to impress somebody. So he might have a partner at home, he might not, or he might just be looking for a girlfriend. So our penguins, they don't mate for life. They are socially monogamous, so once they find a partner for the breeding season, they will stay together in the same burrow, but they are a little promiscuous, so they will sneak around and cheat on their partners, the males and the females. So if you do see something like that male getting up to a bit of mischief on the highway, it's probably a bit of a secret rendezvous before he heads home to the missus. And our penguins, they do have about somewhere between an 18 to 50% divorce rate. So they don't stay together for life. They do sometimes get divorced. If they do get a divorce, they don't split everything 50-50. The male keeps the burrow and the female has to find a new partner and a new burrow. I might go back to the highway again, because what is this penguin doing? He's definitely trying to impress someone. And while he's flapping his flippers around, he'll be doing a bit of a call to try and impress any possible suitors. So it's a bit like that's my best call anyway. Trying to impress those female penguins. So that's probably what he's doing that, flapping his flippers around, puffing his chest out, saying, look at me, I'm a beautiful male penguin. Who wants to be my girlfriend? And he might also do that when he goes back to his burrow. If he hasn't found a partner yet, he'll stand out the front of his burrow, advertising what a beautiful penguin he is, and also showing all the females his nice burrow that he's dug and prepared for the breeding season. So some penguins, they might be looking for a new partner if their breeding attempt has failed. So that's when they're more likely to get a divorce. So if a penguin pair does really well and they have really good healthy chicks and they fledge, they're more likely to stay together. But if they don't do so well, that's when they're more likely to get a divorce. And that's when they might even change burrows. So we've actually seen a few penguins this season who their breeding attempt... Ooh, what's going on there? Oh, I'm loving watching this guy. So their breeding attempt failed. And those penguins, they just moved a burrow over. They moved to the burrow next door, and they've been successful in there. And now they have some little chicks that they're looking after. So it's been really lovely to see those penguins finding a new home and doing well in that home. Where maybe there's a little bit less disturbance, maybe it doesn't really make a difference, but they're happy and having their little family in that new burrow. Ooh, and we don't have long left now, so we might grab another question. And we'll try and get through a few more questions before we finish up tonight on Live Penguin TV. And there's quite a few more penguins coming up across the beach. Have you got another question for us, Taylor?
I certainly do. Are the numbers increasing here? How healthy is our colony? Because we know what happened in the 1980s with so many houses here. So how's the numbers here now?
Yeah, that's Great question. So how are our penguins doing? So they did, as Heather said, in the 80s, we got down to only about 12,000 penguins here. And our researchers thought that there weren't going to be any penguins left here by the 2000s. And it's been a long time since then. Now, penguin numbers have been increasing since the 80s. Those numbers have more than doubled to the 32,000 penguins that we have now. There's another little mothers group on the highway. And that's been due to a lot of effort put in by Phillip Island Nature Parks and the local park services and everyone involved has done a fantastic job the government, of course, who bought back all of the houses in the penguin colony, and the fox eradication program, and all these wonderful initiatives that have gone towards helping and preserving our little penguin colony here on Phillip Island have allowed those penguins to more than double, so that 32,000 penguins are able to live here on the Summerland Peninsula. And it does fluctuate up and down, but it has been fairly stable for the last 3 or 4 years or so. So our penguins are doing really well, and now they seem to have almost reached their carrying capacity. They've taken up almost all the space here on the peninsula, and there's plenty of food for this good number of penguins. So they seem to have stabilised at around that, somewhere around that 32,000, and that can go up and down depending on the food availability, and that's a completely natural fluctuation. All we need to do is make sure that our penguins are nice and safe from any human disturbance or threat. So making sure, as I said before, those roads are closed after sunset, that we don't have any feral animals that might impact our penguins like the foxes that we've managed to eradicate here, making sure they don't come back, and also trying to protect our penguins out at sea. And that's something that we're able to do from learning more about what they eat, like how we collect the blood and the poo to see what they're eating, and we track them, which we've talked about before, to see where they're going, to see where they're foraging. And knowing where the penguins hunt, what they eat, is helping us work towards not just protecting them on land, but helping protect our penguins out at sea to ensure that these numbers stay nice and healthy, and the penguins continue to do well. So we can try and reduce the impact on the fish that the penguins are using. So they eat mostly small fish like sardines and anchovies. So if you're buying those sorts of fish, try and make sure they're sustainably sourced, or try to avoid buying them. They are in a lot of pet foods. And we can also try and create some marine protected areas for the areas where we know our penguins like to find food. So as much as our numbers are doing a fantastic, the penguins are doing fantastic right now, and the numbers are looking great, we want to make sure it stays that way. So that's why we have to continue learning and studying our penguins, and that's what counting them each night does. That helps track the numbers. We see fluctuations year to year. We see changes depending on the breeding season. And that's one of many, many different things that helps us monitor the colony to make sure that we're addressing and mitigating any threats that might be facing our little penguins here on Phillip Island, and sharing that knowledge with people in other penguin colonies, so we can help look after penguin colonies around Australia and around the world. So that's a really good question, and it looks like our stream of penguins is starting to slow. So most penguins are probably already up on land at the moment. I'm probably gone a little bit over time, but I think we might have time for maybe one more quick question before we go. Do we have one more quick one?
Sure.
I'll try
You
not
have
to
to
go on
make
too
the
long.
answer quick though.
Okay.
Okay. So the question is, if there are 32,000 penguins in our colony, what's the percentage of the penguins that are on Summerland's beach where the visitors view them?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. So what percentage of penguins are we seeing here on this beach here on Summerlands? We're definitely not seeing 32,000 penguins. We have seen over 4,000 penguins crossing this beach, and you might have noticed that I said earlier that here at the Penguin Parade we have about 10%, and that's only breeding penguins in that 32,000. So that's not including our chicks or juvenile penguins, just the ones that are breeding. But it is about 10% that live here at the Penguin Parade. So roughly somewhere in the ballpark of 3,200. And that does fluctuate. But all the penguins that cross here don't actually live here. So these penguins, I might scroll across and try and see these penguins that go up the hill, because they don't actually, oh, there's a big group of penguins there. These guys are going to go up the hill, and they don't actually live here at the Penguin Parade. They live up a little bit further, up in what we call the old housing estate. So where there used to be houses, that's where these penguins are going. They walk up the hill, they cross the road, and they live up there. So these guys don't actually live here at the Penguin Parade, but they do cross our beach here. So it is about 10% of the colony, we estimate, that is here at the Penguin Parade. But yeah, we've seen well over 4,000 penguins crossing this beach, because they do venture to places all around the rest of the colony, because it is a nice easy beach to cross here at the Penguin Parade. It's nice and flat and easy to walk across. Nice to walk up this hill rather than scaling some of the cliffs that they might have to go across otherwise. So I think we might leave it at that, as we see these little guys having a bit of a rest before they go up the hill. That might be a cue that it's time for us to have a little rest, almost time for us to go home. So I do want to thank all of you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope you've enjoyed another night of live Penguin TV. If it is your first night watching, welcome. We hope to see you again tomorrow night. Remember, if you do want to help us protect and look after our little penguins and our wildlife here on Phillip Island, you can come visit us now, and you can help us out by making a donation to the Penguin Foundation, and by adopting a penguin. And we do hope to see people coming back here soon, from around Melbourne, and then from around the rest of the world. So we want to have you all back here as soon as possible. But in the meantime, you can donate to our Penguin Foundation, adopt a penguin, and get a little stuffed toy with a little jumper to have at home. You get to give a little penguin a name, which I think is good fun. You can see how many penguin names that you can come up with. And I do also want to say a happy NAIDOC week, acknowledging all of our traditional custodians, our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, and wishing them a fantastic week, and acknowledging all the fantastic accomplishments that they have made. So thank you so much for tuning into Live Penguin TV. Do you want to come in and say goodbye to everybody, Heather?
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow night.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching.
Should we do our hug?
We'll do the hug, of course. Hug.